Hello, good afternoon. I know lots of you were not expecting to see me again this afternoon because it was due to be my fabulous co-host, Michelle, but we are spreading the load. Michelle covered for one of the slots for me yesterday whilst I popped to the doctors. I'm covering for her today so she can get a bit of rest. But we are still joined by the fabulous Barry and Laura Ash, which I'm going to join in again in a minute. Some of you might be thinking you've already spoken to them, and I know we have. But we're going to be sharing a slightly different angle with you this afternoon. All will be revealed when we bring them up on stage on Monday. They were speaking much more about their client work, and today we're digging into a bit more of their personal stories, which I cannot wait to do. I'm going to say apologies for us running late. We were literally all ready to go. We were on time. I went to press click and tech decided it wasn't having any of it. So we're on a different system, but we're going with it. We're going to have an amazing conversation, an amazing afternoon. I am going to say again, for those of you that have watched every single one of these, I know there are some of you out there that have not missed one of these conversations yet. I'm going to say thank you so much for continuing to stick with us. I don't know where you're finding the time to watch them all, but I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that you are. We are so appreciative of all of the shares and the comments and the likes. Just remember, if you are watching, if you're joining for the first time, if you're watching on replay or joining us live, we want you to be using, please, the hashtag Big Burnout Conversation. So hashtag Big Burnout Conversation. And if you have got questions that you would like to pose to Barry or Laura this afternoon, or both of them, get typing them in the comments. We are coming live to you across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. So let me bring this fabulous duo on the stage. Hey, you two, how are you?
We're very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for having us back.
Thank you for coming back. Thank you for booking 2 slots. Thank you for being prepared to share. We really, really appreciate it. So maybe some people didn't hear what you had to say on Monday. So just give us a bit of an intro before we go into what we're going to talk about this afternoon, about kind of who you both are, what you both do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're Laura and Barry Ash, husband and wife. We've been together for 22 years and we've been in business together for, it would be 11 years this year, because we're now 2024. My background is I'm a former police officer and counter-terrorism intelligence officer. And I was medically retired back in 2013 because I have a diagnosis of bipolar and OCD. Then in 2017, 5 years into the business, that's when I hit burnout, and we almost lost the business. So that's a little bit of a there for you. And, ever since then, we've been helping people with their stress levels, managing their energy, and basically battling burnout so they can say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that's me.
And a little bit about me is I've been in the health and wellbeing industry, or health and fitness industry, for over 30 years now. And it's just been my bread and butter. All started off with the physical body, but as I've moved through my journey, I've come to understand that it's more about the mind as well as the body working in unison to become healthy. I've done 7 or 8 years in the local gymnasium, and then I joined the prison service, and I spent 7 years of my 10-year career in the gymnasium as a PTI, teaching the prisoners and heading up the wellbeing team. And as Loz says, we've been 11 years in business, in our own business now, and I just love coming and talking about things mental, physical, and emotional.
Amazing, thank you. And we're grateful that you are willing to take the time to talk about it, because I think, as we've been seeing as part of the conversations this week, right, it's so important. So many of us can either feel alone or isolated. We don't know where to go, who to turn to. We don't always know that these things are happening to us at the time, right? Sometimes we need to go through them. But I'm hoping, and what we are seeing, and you guys will see it as well, is that when we do have these conversations and bring these things to the forefront, people will say, oh, I recognize that in myself, or oh, that's what I'm experiencing, or that's what I was feeling, or that's what I went through, or I'm going through. So the more that we talk about it, and that's the whole purpose of this week, right? It's about raising awareness, getting people to recognize what's going on for them, ideally, preventing it, or at least then coming through it in the best way possible for them. And then using what you said, Laura, there, helping them see that burnout was the best thing that happened to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's dig into the meaty stuff that we're going to talk about. And you're both being extremely kind and kind of letting us dig in this afternoon to not just your experience, Laura, of the, I suppose, the kind of medical retirement and then that lead up to burnout, and then your experience of that, but also then, Barry, from your perspective, what that was like for you. I suppose firstly seeing Laura go through that, living with Laura while she was going through that, and then maybe, I don't know, but maybe kind of, you know, what were you feeling and experiencing? What were you maybe noticing? What maybe support did you need at that time as we were kind of going through that? So we can hopefully we can dig into all of that. And again, you know, I recognize this maybe again, you know, quite a challenging conversation for some of you that are watching or listening. Some of you may be like Laura, the person that was going through it, or you may be like Barry and you're seeing or feeling or experiencing that you have a loved one that's going through it and you're not quite sure what to do, or kind of, you know, where you should be going or how you can help them in the best way. So I'm hoping that we can kind of tackle both of those in some way, shape or form. So Laura, let's kind of start with, well, I don't know, where do you want to start? Does it start at the kind of medical retirement? Is there something in the career, the police career, that kind of triggers it? Start wherever you kind of feel most comfortable.
Yeah, definitely for me, when it came to being medically retired from the police, that was purely because of, you know, bipolar. I was having manic episodes. So for somebody who doesn't know, bipolar is when you experience extreme moods. The way that I like to describe it is you've got penthouse, you've got basement, right, on an elevator. Most people will go, you know, maybe to the ground floor and maybe 5 or 6, whereas people with bipolar will go to the basement and the penthouse, basically. So I was
a new name for manic depressant, isn't it?
Yes, it is a new name. Yeah. And so I was definitely experiencing a lot of moods. My OCD was a lot more heightened. And, you know, it just came to the point where, you know, the forced medical doctor said, right, I think it's time. You know, I'd had so much time off sick with depressions or you know, manias. And he said, you know, you either do it or we do. And that was in the September 2012. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to medically retire myself. And from that point forward, I was not allowed back into work. So I was signed off, and it took until the following June for them to actually properly action it. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm 33 years old, mental health, medically retired. I couldn't see myself getting a job. So that's when we decided to start, you know, Rock Solid.
You went through like a few courses to start with, didn't you? She tried to become but she done a course on beauty.
Yeah, I did a beauty therapist course. Baz was
my eyebrows looked amazing. My eyelashes looked amazing.
I need to do it again. I'll pop around.
The tinting done, the waxing done, and everything.
Nails, everything. I mean, I did mess up. You did it like Herman Munster at one point with your eyebrows because I messed it up. So yeah, but yeah, so we did all of that. But you know, it was 5 years into the business. That's when, you know, I hit burnout. And I often find that with a lot of people, you know, it will be a few years into the business. They're all like, yeah, they're so excited to get going, or their career. And then they slowly start to lose themselves.
I think it was the retirement from the police that actually initiated the burnout, because you as you say, I failed being a police officer, because she had her career planned out. She wanted to do section, she wanted to do firearms, she wanted to do TAC team, she wanted to do dog unit. So she had her 30 years all planned out. And then somebody just pulled the plug and said, no, you can't. You either medically retire yourself or we do it for you. And having that seed dropped in there and going through this retirement, I believe that Loz felt, right, I need to make this work. I need to make Rock Solid work. And literally, when Loz is, she's like a ravaged dog. When she's got her eyes set on something, she's going to go and do it. And she just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And I think that was what was the instigation of the burnout.
Yeah. And you know what? I've never heard you say that before. And I think you're probably right there. That I felt like I had to prove something, you know, because I had comments like, oh, it's such a shame what happened to you. You had such good promise of being a good police officer. And, you know, when you get those sorts of seeds dropped in, you start to think, well, I'm not good enough. So then you have to work to prove yourself. And I definitely know
think, Laura, some of the bipolar and the OCD was then also fueling the fact that, in addition to either being told or feeling in your head that kind of inner self-talk that's basically saying you're a failure, you weren't good enough, you know, kind of what are you doing now? But in addition to that, did you find that maybe the OCD was, I suppose, some of that obsession was then into the work, so you were putting everything into that? And do you think some of that was being fueled by the OCD and the bipolar that led to the burnout?
So with me, with the OCD, my anxiety that I experience is around being sick. So I will have then routines that I have to do, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So not so much that, but it's the way that I manage my energy and the stimulus that I have that will kick off the bipolar. So for example, you know, if I'm working, I'm not sleeping, I'm not fueling, I'm not resting, I'm going up into mania. And the higher I go, the harder I crash. And that's something that I'm able to identify. And, you know, I started in the business. I wanted to prove myself. I didn't want to let Barry down. I didn't want to let my mum and dad down. I didn't want to have to say, oh, I failed my business, so then I had to go and get a job. So I just worked really, really hard. And, you know, we were so busy. We have had a lot of very quick success. And before I hit burnout, I was more focused on what everyone else was doing. Because I saw them as being successful. They had all the money, they had all the clients, they had success that I thought I wanted, which I hadn't actually defined for myself. And so I was like, oh, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that, I need to be doing this. And I was literally running myself ragged. We was having a lot of late nights. I was going to concerts. I was literally the epitome of burning the candle at both ends. And, you know, Barry was saying to me, you need to slow down, Lodge. You're going to burn out. You're going to become unwell. And I was like, no, it's fine. I can deal with it. Do you know what I mean? I just had that mission, that focus. And it was on the 24th of July, 2017. It got to a point, it was literally at midnight, and I had in my head a song playing. It was a Celine Dion song, and it was playing over and over and over and over and over in my head. I had counting going on over and over and over in my head, because I'll sometimes with the OCD I'll count. I was trying to figure out what I was doing. My head was so noisy, I had a headache from it. And I couldn't switch it off. And all of a sudden it just went, and I burst into tears. It was midnight and I was hysterical for 3 hours, Kelly, 3 hours. And it got to the morning, and Barry was like, because obviously my mental health, we need to, you know, really pay attention. He was like, you need to ring the crisis team. And I was like, I don't need to ring the crisis team. I'll be absolutely fine. I'm just having a moment. And you forced me to call them. And I, even on the phone, I was like, I was crying, but I was like, I don't need any help. There's nothing wrong. I'm just going through a phase. That's it. I'm just overworked. And they had to be quite strong and firm with me, didn't they? And I got readmitted back into the system, you know, to be looked after. So that was a Saturday night. And I took some rest. And I remember on the Wednesday morning, Barry was here and our PA, Tony, was here. And I sat at the desk. I was like, right, Wednesday morning, I'm good to go. I was still in my pajamas. I was fine. I opened up my laptop and I just went, and I just burst into tears. I couldn't do anything. I was then in a state of complete catatonic. I went catatonic. The only thing I could do was colour in. That was it. The only thing I could do was colour in. I couldn't make a cup of tea, get myself dressed. think about eating, nothing. And I run a lot of the cogs behind the business.
Yeah.
With no new clients coming in, I wasn't doing any social media, I wasn't doing any outreach, the money was going down, and we almost lost the business because I'd put myself in that state, basically. So yeah, that's my story.
And how long do you think that burnout, how long did that last before you felt like you were able to start managing it, coming through it, dealing with it?
Yeah. I took a couple of weeks off. I
Yeah.
took a couple of weeks where we didn't do anything. We went up and saw friends. And then I slowly started to integrate, because being self-employed, if I was in the police, I would probably have had a good 3 or 4 months off, maybe 6, because I've had up to 6 months off before. But being self-employed, I knew that I needed to get back to work, but I had to define my measure of success, so I wasn't looking at everyone else, but B, I had to focus on my energy levels, and I had to do short bursts of work with Barry that was targeted to just the necessary stuff, not the nice stuff, like all the extra projects and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So all in all, it probably took me about 3 to 4 months to fully kind of recover. But even now, to this date, like how many years on, I still have to be mindful of not going, back in there.
Yeah. And do you find that's more now? But I don't know what language you use for it. I will say that I live with bipolar, and that for me it is literally about just, kind of, I suppose, staying friends with it, right? I have to ensure that I am managing everything. Like you said, if I don't get my sleep, my exercise, if my food is not right, if I'm pushing too much, working too hard, I can very, very quickly go into the I'm invincible mode and nothing's going to stop me, and I can keep going with this. And I know that when I do that, like you, my crashes can be much, much more severe. And then I am in, I'm in I can't move mode. A glass of water becomes too heavy for me. So I can tell now when I'm going into that cycle. But again, I think my other half spots it even before I do. He's like, Kelly, something's got to, but like you, there's nothing wrong with me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me. And then I have to start paying attention to, actually, I did that yesterday, or I did that the day before. So yeah, maybe he's got a point. Frustrates the hell out of me when I have to admit to him that he's, he was right and I was wrong with it. I think sometimes he will see that much more, but I am conscious. It does feel like, whilst I enjoy doing a lot of the stuff that I do, sometimes it feels like a chore. Like I know if I do not go to bed at my bedtime, and maybe I just want to stay up for an extra half an hour, or I want to finish watching a film, but it's like, okay, I can't watch that film because it's like 25 minutes too long, and then I'm bed on time. And even sometimes that feels so stupid. Because it's like, I should just be able to watch a film like a normal person, right? Why can't I just finish watching a film, go to bed whenever I want? But I know even just that 25 minutes could either send me into a complete unrest at night, or I'm going to wake up the following morning anxious. And that for me feels like effort and work. And like we were talking about on Monday, it takes a hell of a lot of energy. But a lot of the time I just don't really have. Is it just similar with you?
Yeah, it totally resonates with me. I mean, I have to do things every day to make sure that my mental health is in check. It's just things that I've done, since 2009 when I was diagnosed, even before that. But I say that I have a diagnosis of bipolar OCD. It's not who I am. It's not who I am. And so I manage me and manage my energy levels. I know I'm the same with sleep. I'm what they class a rapid cycler. So I would tend to cycle 4 times a year with like the seasons and stuff like that. And, as I'm getting older as well, I'm finding that it's really reacting with perimenopausal as well. So I'm finding that some of the bipolar is being exacerbated with all of that. But I know my signs and symptoms. I know, and Basil, like your husband, will pick me up on, some of the things with my wording, or I do night's move thinking. So I'll be having a conversation in my head, and then I'll speak to Barry, and they'll be like, what are you talking about? And then I'll switch to something else. But that's also a sign of me going into that
Mm.
burnout. And I know a lot
Yeah.
of people I've spoken
There's about
to.
4 conversations normally going on at the same time, and I'm just like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
I can
Conversations,
do the same.
they start and stop halfway through, so you don't really understand what the premise of the conversation's about.
Yeah. And sometimes
But-
I think I've started the conversation with Mick when actually I
Mm.
haven't. I have been having it in my head. So yeah, I start a conversation with him halfway through, expecting him to know what I'm talking about. And he's like, what you do? I'm like, we've just been talking about this. And he's like, no, you've just asked me a question. Like, I don't, where's that come from? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it was, okay, yeah, we didn't have that conversation.
I think one of the most important things is Loz is really conscious about what she's doing, and having the diagnosis of bipolar, not being the bipolar is
Yeah.
a game changer.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
there's so many people say, I've got bipolar or I've got anxiety, and they become it, and then they use that as not an excuse but a reason to behave that way.
And it's like with
Yeah, or
burnout,
I hear a lot of people say I am bipolar, and that's why
Yes,
for me
yes.
I've always said I live with it, right? It's something that I kind of live alongside, but
Yeah.
I am not bipolar. I am not somebody who, I didn't even from the burnout perspective, burnout was something that I went through. Burnout was something
Yes.
that I have to be more mindful of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very conscious of that kind of I am language, because I never want it to become part of my identity. It is something that I live with and I live alongside, but it is not me. I am so much more than that.
Yeah,
And it's the
100%.
same with burnout. People will say, I am burnout. I am burnout.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're just experiencing burnout at this part of your life. It's not who you are. It doesn't define who you are, right? It's just something that you're experiencing. And I really love to go into that with people. I'm like, you're not anxiety, you're not depression. The I am statement, anything with Wayne Dyer, you have to be very careful about what you're labeling yourself.
Yeah.
And soon as you understand that, you're free from it.
Yeah.
You can manage it better, because it's not part of you. You can see it from I always say, let's bring ourselves above it and look at it from another point of view. And you'll see it, when something's out of your mind, it's 10 times smaller.
Yeah.
When it's in your head, it grows and grows, and it consumes who you are. Let's take yourself out of it, see what it is, and then we can put it into perspective, what's going on, and then we can manage the signs and symptoms better from there.
Yeah. Thank you. So from your perspective, Barry, before we'll come to I think 24th of July, you said, Laura, with that kind of midnight, midnight, I don't know, crying episode. But from your perspective, Barry, in the lead up to that first, had you noticed anything? I will do, because again, I'm going to imagine here, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to imagine that you were both working really hard to build the business, to grow it, to make it a success. So I'm going to assume here, rightly or wrongly, that you were also working hard trying to build it, dealing with all of the success and everything that was going on. But were you at that same time as doing that work and putting that effort in, noticing any difference in Laura, or any kind of red flags or signs that made you think this isn't quite right?
I was still in bipolar and OCD mode. So my when I'm caring for Lars and looking after Lars, it's all about the bipolar OCD. So my head was over this way, and I was like, right, I'm getting some signs, I'm getting some triggers here, because in our kitchen we have a dilly gaff board, okay, and it's the sign when I start noticing these symptoms, we have an action plan next to all of the signs and symptoms. Yeah. So I was looking on the board, what's this, and then burnout wasn't even on my spectrum. Yeah, it wasn't even on my mindset. And then that night I was like, what are you crying for, Loz? Can you stop? Can you stop, Loz? And it was sobbing. And I just sat there, and we rocked and we cuddled, and we rocked and we cuddled. And that was for the majority of the night. And I thought, this is a little bit different to the bipolar.
This was a bipolar episode, because you'd obviously said we need to contact the mental health team. So you're thinking this is an episode that we need to get some mental health support for.
I thought it was an episode of bipolar, but it was a different episode to what I've ever experienced, because I've never really experienced.
There was something different going on. Yeah,
definitely. And that's why we wanted, like, normally we can sort it in house. We have the
Yeah.
all the systems and processes in place for the bipolar, but this weren't working. Nothing was working. So we needed to get professionals in who are dealing with Loz's mental health all the time, and then it just started getting. Her energy was going. There was nothing that we could do. She was trying to work, but she just couldn't have the mental capability to even write a sentence, let alone do all the work she normally does. And it was just like, this is going to be an experience.
And what's going through your mind at that point? I suppose first and foremost as her husband.
Yeah.
But what's going through your mind at that point?
It was concern about Loz's health. The business, it was a kind of concern in the background because I could see everything just sort of on rickety shelves kind of thing. But I thought we can build a business again. But Loz's health is the most important thing. If we have to go and get jobs, we go and get jobs. If we have to start rock solid from scratch again, we do that. But when somebody's at breaking point like she was, that was the most important thing for me, to get that sorted and get help.
Yeah.
So that's where the energy went. That's where we had to put all our energy.
And how much of your energy would you say was going into supporting Laura through that?
About 80 to 90% of it. And
so you weren't left with much left either.
No, and I was going in the gym I had 3 clients in the morning. I had my phone next to me and I was texting Laura's, and I was say to the client, do you mind if I just pop in and see how she was? So I was jumping back. Luckily enough, my office or my gym is next door to the house, so I was just jumping back and forth, and it was just making sure she was okay, because I could go back in there and she could have done something self-harming, spilled tea or coffee down her, or it could have been anything. So that was the main, making sure she's safe, making sure she's not doing anything stupid.
So that must have been quite difficult for you at the time to actually, I suppose, fight. We were talking about it on Monday again, weren't we? Kind of being in the present. So if you're with a client, you're worried about the fact that you're not with Laura.
Yeah.
I'm assuming then when you're with Laura, you're worried about the fact that you're not with clients bringing in the money because you're not quite sure what's going to happen. So do you think you were also kind of going through that all of the mental stuff, the emotional stuff, the physical stuff that, again, many of us would kind of attribute to starting on that kind of burnout journey?
I think so, yeah. But one thing I've got to say is the clients that I do have in the gym are so considerate. And the best thing I did was opened up a conversation with them. And I told them exactly what was going on within our personal life. I'm not trying to hide it and say like, hey, everything's fine. We're health and fitness coaches and we never have these problems. I opened up and I told them what was going on, and then they understand. And that takes so much pressure off of me and allowing me to go back into the house to see if Loz is okay. And I'd say that to everybody. Open up a conversation like we are doing this week with you guys, is having this conversation about burnout, about mental health, about emotional health. Because I think that's the biggest thing we have now. We have a problem with emotional health rather than mental health.
I have to say our clients were absolutely fantastic, weren't they?
They were. And they still are. That's still amazing. Brilliant.
They really were.
But like you said, that must have taken a lot, because again, right, we're told, well, most of us that have been through it aren't, but there still isn't there this guise of work and separate, work and home life are two separate things. You don't take your stuff into work with you. As a business owner, we're kind of then, it becomes all encompassing, but actually we don't want necessarily, if we're trying to, like you said, right, we're the health and fitness experts. Actually, we've got an issue here. Lots of people would hide that away because actually that's not a great brand, is it? That's what automatically people think. And I still find myself in that, right? Am I doing myself and my business a disservice by talking about burnout and bipolar and all of these things? Well, actually, no, that is part and parcel of why I do what I do. It's a fundamental part of what makes me tick. I'm not going to hide any of that stuff through shame or guilt or any of those things. But we know that there are people that are doing that, because in the back of our mind, like, oh my God, like it could damage my brand, or nobody will ever work with me again, or any of that sort of stuff. So it takes a lot, I think, to be able to open up about that stuff.
Yeah. And I feel when it first was going on, there was a lot of the coaches out there saying, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it because it will damage your brand. But this is what I found. The more we talk about it, the more it exacerbates our brand. It makes our brand better because they can see we're not just reading text messages or reading texts from a book we've read and we're verbatim it back to them. We've been through it. We've been in the trenches dealing with the bipolar, the OCD, the burnout. So we know what it feels like, and we can empathize with all of our clients and all the people that are going through it and saying, yeah, you're going to come out the other side. Trust me, we've been there.
Yeah. And I think that is so important. And it, you know, it does, we talk, I mean, authenticity is a word that gets thrown around a lot. But it is, isn't it? You know, it's doing and saying the right thing even when nobody's looking. And you two are absolutely walking that talk in terms of this is life. This is our business. We're gonna share it. We're gonna talk about it. We have got the lived experience. We've got the tools. We've got the resources. We're making it work for ourselves, and really kind of highlighting that. And I think, you know, kind of full credit to both of you, because again, you will know, as I'm sure I know, lots of people that have got all the crap going on behind the scenes that do hide it, or you know they're talking a particular talk, and you know they're not living it or breathing it anywhere else. So it's that's what makes it even more difficult. So can I ask from a business perspective and from a personal perspective, Laura, you said you go through the rapid cycling, so 4 times a year. I have been similar. I'm not so much at the I'm not so much at the moment, although you know, who knows. But again, I kind of recognize that. So for the two of you, well, I suppose Laura, let's come to you first, and then kind of Barry from your perspective. But if you know that you've got that rapid cycling, it's not just like, you know, on the 1st of July, this is what we're going to go through, right? There's kind of this stuff. So in terms of the planning, the managing, the looking after your own well-being, and then business planning, events, client work, all of those sorts of things, how do you personally, Laura, manage, overcome, deal with all of those things?
So I live it daily. So I have daily things that I'll look after, like my sleep. You know, I'll make sure that I have start times for work, finish times for work. I have a morning routine. I have an evening routine. I work out and I train. But then I just manage my calendar and see how I feel, because Baz and I do a lot of charity work, and there have been last year that we've had to cancel a couple of events because I'm just like, I cannot be around people at the moment. I just can't do it. So that I know when to say no, and, you know, not feel bad or feel guilty with that. I know, especially around winter time, I need to sleep a bit extra. I know that. So I'll change my morning routine. I'll change when I start work. And that's how I'll manage myself, you know, with those sorts of things, you know, breath work, get in the ice tub, you know, all this kind of stuff helps with my recovery. But
also when we're having a big event, when we go and do the keynote speeches and stuff like that, we make sure the day after or 2 days after, all the work is just, we take it right down. We just do the essential stuff so we can recuperate, and then we're back into doing the jobs again.
I note it on stimulus. It's a match stimulus. So even if I just go to London for the day, that's a lot of stimulus for me. Like this is a lot of stimulus for me. You know, when we go to Comic Cons, you know, there meeting people can, you know, like 4 or 5 hours, come and have a picture, this person, that person, this person, like you literally can't move.
Feels like we're getting married again, the amount of smiles.
Exactly. and again, so I'm like, right, I'm not going to go out partying in the evening with everybody else. I need to come back to the hotel and do nothing and sit in my pajamas and watch, I don't know, something trashy. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is. So I manage my energy, I manage my stimulus.
And also, it sounds like you are very, very clear then on your boundaries, because so many of us that are either living with, you know, mental health conditions, issues, concerns that have been through or are dealing with burnout. There is still that guilt factor. You know, like I was saying, you know, in terms of Michelle and I, we've swapped a couple of appointments this week where, you know, we will do that for each other. as part of this. But potentially at the back of our minds, actually, if this was, I don't know, a paid client workshop, there is that, oh, like, I just haven't got it in the tank, but I might feel guilty if I didn't do it, or I don't want to cancel, and lots of people experience that. Whereas what I'm hearing from you is you have got those very clear boundaries. You know, I'm the same with a London day, anything with lots of people. Next week, I know I'll be shocked the amount of talking and interviewing and all this stuff that I'm doing this week. That's in my diary. But you are literally protecting your boundaries and your energies. You know that needs cancelling. There's no shame around that. I just need to protect myself. I know that I'm not going for dinner. I'm not going for a party because I need to be in bed. And again, that must take, or I would imagine now that's something that you've obviously been doing for long enough to know that it's important.
Yeah.
But what allowed you to stick to that in the early days that you started to do it? Were you still experiencing some of that self, like, can't do that, there's got to be shame, there's got to be guilt, you need to, do you think did you go through that period?
Yeah, definitely. Like if I had to reschedule a client, oh my gosh, will they leave? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But one of my coaches said to me once before, if you're not 100% client, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah, because they're paying for the service.
Absolutely. And I only want to ever give my clients 100%. If one of my clients will email me at night and I see it, I'll say to them, I've seen your message. I'm not at full energy right now to give you the attention you need. I'll come back to you in the morning. Done. But also for me, like, I really enjoy training, you know, and I have my coach who writes all my stuff for me, you know, I'm into the CrossFit. And so for me as well, I want my energy to be able to do that because I love doing that, you know. So yeah, now I don't have any qualms saying it. If someone's got a problem with it, it's not my problem. It's their reflection of what's going on with them, and it's not me.
Yeah, thank you. And then Barry, from your perspective, what does that kind of look like, feel like? What's the impact on you if you've, I don't know, you've had this big event planned and Laura's just like, it's not happening?
Sometimes it's like, I was really looking forward to that, but I would rather not do that and deal with the repercussions of doing it and then having Loz sick, because it's just not worth it. There's always going to be that event again down the line. And I've always stipulated Loz's health, my health, is the most important thing in this world. And I will do everything to protect that.
Yeah.
And if that means we've got to do nothing for a whole week, 2 weeks, then we do nothing for 2 weeks, because the health of our body is so important.
We've actually said if Rock Solid ever got to a point where it really seriously affected my health or our relationship, we'd ditch it. Without a shadow of a doubt, because we're far more important.
But nowadays, rather than ditching it, we mold it. We understand that we can mold everything now.
Yes.
So we are molding, we are creating, we are designing Rock Solid to suit our lives.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. We can help as many people as we can, but first thing we do, we mold it around what we do. And this is why it's great that we're going online. This is great with the programs that we are developing with Rock Solid, because we can help so many people, but it doesn't have this massive impact on what we're doing here.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you. And from your perspective, Barry, you are, I'm going to say, giving a lot, and I'm sure you both give a lot to each other. I'm absolutely sure, you know, and I can see the kind of love and everything that you've got for each other, which I just think is absolutely fantastic. But when you are, I suppose, in that caring role, right, and Laura needs the care and support that Laura needs in that moment, what do you do to ensure that you are keeping yourself topped up? What support and help do you get as the carer, the husband, the business partner? You know, you're both wearing lots of different hats together, aren't you? So what are you doing to make sure that you then have the same level of support to keep you at the energy and love and compassion and all of those things that you also need?
It's my main thing is I always get up a couple of hours before Loz, and in those couple of hours, I do me. So I do my meditation, like 45-minute meditations every single day. I exercise every single day. I drink my water, and I do our 6 pillars. and that fills me up. But also Loz understands I need my time, and so if that means watching a bit of NFL by myself on the TV or watching MotoGP, I just have half an hour. That's all I need, half an hour of me just zoning out and watching a bit of sport on TV. That fills me up. Or going out on my bike, and I'll have an hour out on my bike, and it's just that. And also I love my garden as well. I'll go out there and I'll just dig a hole. I'm like a man, I just dig a hole, just dig a hole.
So
I dig another hole. Put
to the garden now, yeah. But it's that again, and from what I'm hearing with the two of you, again, I'm going to make the assumption that there has been a lot of work, a lot of communication, a lot of understanding to make this work for the two of you. What do you think have been, and I know you said you're kind of, you know, your 6 pillars that again, you live and breathe, right? They're part of what you do for yourselves and for your clients in your business. But what do you think as a couple has allowed you to have that level of communication and understanding where you can just say, I need to not go to that event. I need to watch half hour of sport on my own. I need, 20 minutes digging a hole in the garden. What's allowed you to build that level of communication? And I'm going to say trust with one another, right? Because it's like, I trust that that is what you need. And yes, like that's fine, right? It's not about, it doesn't sound like you're asking for permission. You are saying, this is what I need. And you trust it. Again, what I'm kind of getting is you're trusting each other enough to give that space or that support when it's needed. So what's allowed you to build that between the two of you?
I think you said the words. It's trust, it's understanding, it's the love we have for each other. Because in a relationship, it's a lot of people will do what they feel they need to the other person to get back what they want. But in a relationship, it's not about that. It's about understanding the needs of the individual. And I'm going to give Loz the needs that she needs, not what I want. I give Loz what she needs and vice versa. She gives me what I need. Yeah. But there's so many people out there in relationships that say, I'm doing this because that's what I want you to do to me. And it doesn't work like that. It just backfires. You got to have an understanding of the person you're in a relationship with. What do they want? What do they need? How do they get satisfied? Yeah. It's like Loz will talk. Loz will want to talk her problems over and over and over and over. And me, I will say, right, let's have that conversation. And I will make sure I am present with that conversation. Not like, oh, God, why do you want to talk again? In my head, sometimes I do that, but I park that and I go, right, let's be present. And likewise, I'm watching the TV. Loz understands that I want to watch that program or the sport, and she'll give me that time. Rather than, listen to me. I'm trying to have a conversation. Oh, you haven't. You were doing that bit. And we have that understanding.
Yeah, I think it's definitely having big respect for each other. As Barry says, understanding that a lot of time we'll take each other, a lot of couples will take each other for granted because I want to do this, you want to do this, because I think like that, you think like that. We are not just, completely different people. We're completely different species. Like men and women think completely differently, right? So I have to recognize that. But also it is love. We have such a deep love for each other. And we've made a commitment to each other. We want to look after each other and take care of each other. I
think it's part of life. It's about understanding and learning about each other. Not about what can I have, what can I get from a relationship. I just want to find out what makes her tick. And more about Loz go through our journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One final question. Yes. Is there ever a point where either of you can't communicate what you need? So maybe Laura, when you're in that kind of low, when you've had that crash, or Barry, if there is ever a time where, I don't know, frustration, emotions, mentally, if you ever cannot articulate what it is that you need, what would then happen in those situations? Are you at the point where you now just know each other well enough? And pretty Barry, you need this, you're getting it, whether you want it or not, or whether you need it, this is what you're getting. But how do you kind of manage that? Because I know I cannot, again, if I'm in my low phase, I cannot 90% of the time, if I'm at that absolute low, I cannot articulate what it is that I want or need in that moment.
Yeah.
I think the great thing here is have a keyword.
Mm.
Have a keyword that you can use rather than explaining everything and going through all that. Like we have the dilly gaff board. We don't use it anymore. We know each other so well. If there was a problem that can't be communicated, Loz or I would say dilly gaff, and then what's going on? Something's up that we can't talk about, and then it's easier once you say that word. Then you can say, right, let's break this down, and we can start having a conversation. Why did you say dilly gaff for?
But I'll even say, babe, I just need a day, and I'll say I need to say something, but I don't know how to say it. So can you just give me time? And I'll sit and I might journal. But also Barry and I have been coaching for like 10 years. So it is kind of an advantage because, you know, I will probably know what's going on. And then it's just about, you know,
and also
understanding that.
Having that understanding that we've got 2 minutes in one mouth, we need to use them in that ratio. If somebody does say the word or Loz says, give me time, right, I know I need to shut up and I need to listen because she doesn't want to be fixed. She doesn't want to be told what to do. She wants to be heard. And having that understanding is a massive game changer.
Oh, thank you. I love you both. I can literally like so many more questions, but I'm gonna leave it there for your sake, for my sake, and for the sake of all our viewers and listeners. But I am going to ask if one final thought, either as an individual that is going through burnout and or something like bipolar, what would be your kind of final thoughts for either the person that's going through it or the person that is living with or loving the person that's going through it? What do you think you'd kind of leave people with today?
You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. We just need to look at your symptoms and seeing what we can put in place to make those symptoms better for you, to make you happier, healthier, and enjoy your life a bit better.
Yeah. And I know for me, it's very cliche, but it is, you know, just give yourself a break, take a breath, and just say to somebody, you know, I need to talk. And if you don't know how to articulate it, just go and have a cup of coffee with them and it will naturally just start to come out, and just be brave enough to, hopefully this conversation today has inspired somebody to be brave enough. The fact that we've spoken about such raw things, you know, that it is okay to talk about these things and be accepted.
Yeah. Thank you both. I'm like, I am going to shut up now, but so I'm going to say huge thank you to both of you for, again, just being open enough to share and support and looking after each other, right? Again, you know, no relationship is easy, is it? And business relationships, business partnerships, marriages, relationships, none of that stuff is easy. But I think, you know, the fact that you could both still sit there smiling, hugging each other, loving each other, supporting each other, I think good for you. Keep it going. We need more of this, right? We need more love and hugs on every single platform. And as much as we can go, just keep supporting. So yeah, just a huge thank you again to both of you for getting involved with this week, for coming back twice and giving us two completely different angles. Hugely appreciated. It was Laura's birthday yesterday. Did you have a lovely birthday yesterday?
I did have a lovely birthday. Barry cooked me breakfast.
Oh, very nice. I think we all need a Barry. This is what we all need. We all need my other half will come home. I'll be like, you need to be more like Barry. I won't really.
Yeah, we had love. Yeah, we trained together, and then we went out for something to eat, and then we come back. We had cake and watched a movie and just chilled out.
Yes,
nice. That sounds like the perfect day. Well, I'm so pleased you had a lovely day. If you are watching this either live or on replay, again, thank you very much. Go and give Laura and Barry a follow. And what are we? Rocksolid.co.uk, if I remembered that, because I haven't got it scrolling today. Is that right?
Rocksolidhealth.co.uk, or just come and find me on LinkedIn, Laura Ash, or Rock Solid UK.
Go and find her on LinkedIn, give her a follow. give them ring the bell, look at everything that they're doing. They've got challenges, resources. New ebook came out yesterday. We have shared the link for that, but again, go and have a look at that, get that downloaded. So I'm going to say a final thank you to Laura and Barry. I'm going to say thank you to all of you for watching, listening, playing, sharing, all of that stuff. Hashtag Big Burnout Conversation. We are only going to create the change when we have many, many more of these conversations. And yeah, I hope that's been helpful. I hope this conversation has been useful for those of you that have got a loved one going through it, if you are the loved one going through it, and also if you are a business owner or if you're self-employed or are going through some of those challenges. So thank you both so much. I'm back tomorrow, I think, at 9 o'clock. So it's either 9 or 9:30. I'll see you at some point. We've got lots more on tomorrow, and we're keeping on going until Friday. As long as Michelle and I can both last until Friday, we will be going until Friday. So thanks, everybody. I'll see you all soon.